Hello, friends,
Hello.
and welcome back to Like Anime.
Oh, thank you for welcoming me. It's very nice to be here.
My name is George, and with me, as always, is Tony.
Hi, I'm Tony. Oh, he's my favorite. I love that guy.
He's so cool, dreamy.
I did the same bit for two openings. I don't care.
Just your bit of the week.
I guess so.
We're joined again for some more anime talk, as we do here. I call it a talk show. I don't know if that's accurate or not. We do talk, and it is a show, so there you go. But this is episode 27 of spring 2021. We've been chugging along. If you've been following along this far, I commend you. It's a lot to listen to.
If you haven't, I commend you.
If you're just tuning in, welcome. I hope we're talking about a show that you either love or hate, because that'll make it more interesting.
Yeah. Or that you know nothing about and you just want to, pick up at episode 10.
Yeah, as you do, as you do. Which with our first show, that would be a bit tricky. I'd be very confused, and I don't know if it would be engaging, but it might be intriguing if you started with this episode and I'd be like, what is going on with these wacky animal characters?
I mean, we could just do a recap of the first 9 episodes before we do.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, we'll touch on some things, but let's not get too crazy. But fair enough. We got, speaking of which, ODDTAXI is our first show.
Yep.
And show we're both really enjoying, I believe. And
yeah.
It's fun to talk about too. It's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot of interwoven stuff.
Yeah,
I always talk about weaving with this show.
There is weaving, yeah. Like the basket weaving of anime.
Yeah. So much story weaving. So this one starts off with Yamamoto sucking, right? I think, is that where we start? Yamamoto sucks?
Well, sucking. It's not that kind of a show.
Well, not that kind of sucking. It's not that kind of a suck.
So, yeah, Yamamoto is the Mystery Kiss manager who's also embroiled in this gangster.
Wait, I thought his name was Yano.
Oh, my God. Well, he works for Yano, as we learned.
He does. All right.
Both episodes this week, you've pointed out.
I'll leave it alone. It's fine.
Dug up some...
Yeah, it's fun. It's called a callback. It's sort of a crux of comedy.
Hey, guys, I'm wrong often. Get used to it.
I am too, but no one ever calls me out on it.
Yeah. We'll see about that. I'm gonna get a campaign going. I can't do it, but we'll get someone. I'll hire someone to.
You need help. You need help from the audience to tell you when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So that you can call me out on it.
Yeah. I need you guys. I need a chorus of audience members behind me.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll be behind you guys. You guys lead the charge, and I'll be like, yeah, they showed you. I'm pointing at Tony very accusatorily right now. For nothing in particular. What?
J'accuse.
So Yamamoto, I got his name down. He is the manager for the pop group sensation Mystery Kiss in show.
Kiss. Nami mani kiss. Nami mani kiss.
I feel like we don't hear that song often enough in the show. It's a really good jam.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like it.
They play the other one, whatever that's called. But anyway, so Yamamoto is getting a cab ride from our main character, Odokawa, and they are picking up a conversation that they had recently. Yamamoto wants Odo's SD card cam footage of the inside of his cab.
Yep.
And last time they spoke, Odo was like, you're going to have to give me like, was it a billion?
900 million.
900 million yen.
Or maybe he asked for $1 billion because he said he had an offer of 900 million from someone else. Yeah, that's what it was.
He's like, here, you sweeten the pot, give me 1 billion yen, and we'll call it good. Of course, he was bluffing. But anyway, Yamamoto in this episode comes back and is like, yeah, that offer's from a Yakuza member, and so I think you're in some nasty stuff. Like, he doesn't understand how deep Odo is in this. And so he's like trying to reason with him. And meanwhile, while this conversation is happening, he's directing him to this
remote location.
Yeah, it looks like a very primitive construction site.
Yeah.
It's just an open dirt lot with some like a backhoe there or whatever. And which is just funny, but like you'd think Odo would see what was coming, but anyway, Odo kind of flips the script on him and he's like, "You're gonna work for me now." And then Yamamoto's like, yeah, and he throws a belt around his neck and is strangling him. And there's more to that conversation, but that in essence, that's what's happened. And Odo is saved in the nick of time. It's not looking good. A
Mm.
very intro of this episode. But somebody throws a rock through the window and hits Yamamoto, and then and sort of stops what's happening. And it's my favorite character, Shirakawa, is back.
Yeah. Why was she there at this abandoned like construction site?
That's a question I have. So like,
Oh.
so okay, so we'll get there. But so I guess they get the upper hand on Yamamoto, or because of this,
Yeah.
and Odo's back to blackmailing him essentially, and so now he's kind of in the palm of their hand, and they send him off, or they just leave him there. It seems that's where he wanted to go. They just
Yeah.
kind of drive away. Shirakawa is now in the cab, and then she tells Odo that Goriki, the doctor that runs the clinic, had told her about what Odo was getting into, right?
Mm.
But I'm with you. Like, there's how would she have known where to go
Where
to be
Yamamoto
at?
was going to direct him to drive to. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But then this is my theory, because I don't think this show. I mean, I don't want to suspect Shirakawa of any, being up to no good. But they're forcing my hand because they're having a conversation, and then Odo kind of like they're talking about Dobu and how Odo's working with him, and Odo makes a remark of like, Dobu doesn't actually seem that bad to me, like, and then Shirakawa's kind of agreeing. She's like, yeah, like he has his own sense of justice, and he adheres to that. And then Odo, I think, is kind of reminded of all of his emotions of with Shirakawa, and is reminded of where he was at, with her, and he's just like, you're defending him now, like, shut up, like, get out of here, I hate you. Not that exactly, but that sentiment. But then he pulls the car over, and I guess at that moment it strikes him that he must have been somebody must be tracking him. And so he's like looking for a phone, which there is a scene in an older episode where Mitsuya, who's not the calico cat but the blue cat, Russian blue,
Yeah.
who one of the masked singers of Mystery Kiss, we saw her plant a phone, and I have that written down here. Oh yeah, episode 5, Mitsuya hides her phone in the back seat. But anyway, he's in this episode. He's looking through his back seat while Shirakawa's in the passenger front seat, and he's trying to find a tracker. And he's mentioning like, "Oh, it could be a phone, but the phone would die, and so it's probably some other GPS tracker." And he tells her about like the guy that's trying to kill him, and then they shot into his place, and yada yada. And he finds a GPS tracker, but he doesn't find the phone. So I was very curious about that. But it led me to thinking about Shirakawa
Well,
knowing.
when he was doing that though, he was talking about the fact that the phone battery would die, so they would
Yeah.
have to have like taken the phone out and replaced it with something. They would
That's
have had to
true.
have gotten in there to be able to take the phone out and replace it with this other tracker thing. So, and that's sort of what he was saying. In the scene,
Yeah,
so.
but I'm like, who would have gotten that phone? But it's like when he's talking about this, he's talking about Tanaka, right? Because Tanaka is the one that's trying to kill him and is tailing him to a impeccable degree, right? Or like
Right.
he knows where he's at,
Yes.
suspicious to his point of suspicion.
Well, he's talking about the fact that like, yeah, his window got broken before, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where this conversation started. Was, oh, my window's broken again, and it happened before or whatever. And also the bullet through his window at home or whatever. And yeah, that's how he deduces that someone must be tracking him, and
Yeah.
presumably Tanaka. I don't think he says that.
No, but he does mention the guy, that unrelated person that's trying to kill him.
Yeah.
He tells Shirakawa about this. But that's what got me thinking about Shirakawa, because it's like, it's one thing if it's poor writing and it's like, oh, she just happened to be there in this abandoned, or not abandoned, but this like
Right.
remote location that no one would have, that you couldn't have possibly anticipated
Right.
they would be at. And it's not like she had a car there; she was just standing, like, it was just there.
Yeah.
And so if it's not poor writing, then it leads me to believe that whoever planted this GPS tracker, that she's connected with them somehow, right? That she would be able to tail Odokawa to this spot only to save him. So it brings into question her motive, but I don't know. That was an interesting. I knew we were gonna have to talk about this whole Shirakawa thing, but
Yeah.
what do you think?
That is interesting. I hadn't actually thought of that It was mostly more of like she just happened to be there like randomly. Like, why would she be there? And
Yeah.
I didn't really delve into it any further than that. I just,
Yeah.
yeah, I prescribed it to bad writing, which is probably not the right thing to do with this show because the writing's actually pretty good overall.
Yeah, it's been very consistent.
I don't think there's a lot of these happenstance things that aren't further explained.
Yeah, things have always added up and made sense, like characters' motives and actions and those sorts of things. So it leads me to believe that there's something more to that, and it is kind of brushed over. So maybe they're hoping that we won't dwell on it too much, because it'll lead to some reveal. I'm hoping. But anyway, so I guess we'll carry on because we got more to talk about that maybe ties.
I'm still trying to find this Russian blue cat on my list of characters here.
Mitsuya. Mitsuya is her name.
I see no one named Mitsuya. That's the other problem. Yeah, I mean I see a cat, but her name is not that. But I don't think that's her either.
Oh yeah, it's this one.
Miyayuki?
Or maybe not. Well, no, that must be someone else.
I think that must be someone else.
So that I don't think she's on here.
That's weird.
But okay, but that leads me to this to another thing I wanted to talk about with you about this episode. So I guess we'll carry on. Odo Dobu lays out the plans for Odo of his bank heist that he wants to do, right?
Right.
Which Dobu doesn't realize that Odo is already in contact with Imai, who won this billion yen.
Right.
And so Odo is trying to protect him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, so Dobu's whole plan is that, I mean, it's kind of hard to sum up, but he assumes that Yano is going to apprehend Imai, coax him by force into taking them or handing over or by whatever means, they're going
to take him to the bank. They're going to take Imai to the bank, and he's going to
withdraw the money
or cash the ticket or whatever it is.
Yeah. But Dobu already has an in with the bank. And so they already have a setup where they're going to give them like 10 briefcases, and they're only going to show them one, which has actual money in it, but then the rest are counterfeit or prop money or whatever. And so it's kind of flimsy, but they're just Jobu is convinced that Yano will only look at the first one to be convinced, doesn't want to waste time maybe or make a big hubbub about it. And so then his plan is to have Odo waiting across the way in the cab, and then Dobu will take off with the other 9 real money briefcases, and then meet up with Odo, and then they will go to the warehouse where Yano, their head of operations, and somehow procure the other money. I'm a little hazy on the rest of this plan, but
Dobu said he was going to get it somehow. I don't remember exactly.
Yeah, and he's essentially being greedy, right? Like he has a beef against Yano,
right?
But so it seems like to his own detriment, maybe he's going to.
Right, he could get away with 900 million yen.
Yeah,
but he wants the full million.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then they have some other plan, and then Dobu ends this whole spiel to Odo, being like, you have limited involvement. You might be implicated, but it's not like you're not directly involved, right? Like you're just a cab driver.
Yeah, you're a cab driver. You just went where the customer told you, basically.
So it shows that Dobu's like taking him into consideration and the level of risk. And so he's like considerate of Odo helping him, even though they have this deal. Anyway, and he's like, and also I'll give you a cut, we'll split it. And Odo says, no, I don't want any of that. We already have our deal. He says, like, if anything, just take care of this other guy that's trying to kill me, which is Tanaka.
Right, which Dobu already wants to do anyway. So
yeah, because we think. Well, this leads to a tweet that you put out where you noticed that the close up of the gun that shot Dobu last episode in the knee or in the leg was a slightly different pistol than the one that Tanaka has, which he inadvertently found that was Dobu's buried in a park or something.
Yeah, I mean I guess the thing that really clued me in on it was when rewatching it, the color of the hand holding the gun was
yes,
completely white instead of gray. I was like, well, he could be wearing gloves or something like that. But then looking back at the previous scene where we saw him in the van with the gun, they're very, very, very differently constructed weapons.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's clearly
both
not the
handguns,
same
but
weapon.
not the same gun.
Not
And
the same weapon.
that goes back again to our trust in this show. They've been so deliberate and so methodical in how they've plotted these things out that you would imagine that means something. That's not just like oops, we drew the gun wrong.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Our budget is
and
very
like the blue. So Tanaka is wearing like a blue hoodie, and the hand that's holding the gun that shoots Dobu is also wearing something blue, but the color of blue is different. The color of the hand is different. The gun is different. Like,
and the white reminds me of a glove, which would be more like one of the cops.
Yeah,
right?
one of the
like
diamonds.
The Diamond
and the blue is much more like a police uniform color. And
yeah. And the big Daimon is presumably already in cahoots with Dobu. So the little Daimon, you would think, and there is a part in this I haven't got to yet, but where little Daimon is calling Odo and he ignores it. So.
And I think in was it last episode or this episode? Maybe pre-credits this episode? No, there was no pre-credits this episode. I thought that Odo was telling little Daimon about where this was going to go down.
Yeah,
right?
that was last episode.
That was last episode. Okay.
And so that kind of adds up that like he might have been there.
Right. But it's much more interesting if it's not little Daimon.
That's true.
But big Daimon, who is turning against
He's double crossing
Dobu. Perhaps Yano has got to him. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, like, there's so many.
It's so much speculation.
There's so many ways it could go.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that is Dobu's plan involving Odo. And then Odo proceeds to meet with Imai to basically lay his plan over this plan.
Yeah.
And so he basically divulges both plans to him and how he's going to help him get out of it.
And then we get to see Yano's plan wrapped at us.
Yes, yeah. Yano raps at us.
So there's a lot of plans. Everyone has a plan.
And then
some plans depend on other plans, and some plans know about other plans.
And some plans don't.
Yeah.
But then also there's one more plan where Odo contacts Yamamoto, they're now working together and has a plan with him as well, that is all in conjunction with all this other stuff that he's pulling to try to save Imai and all that. And then with I already said little Daimon, he ignores his phone call, which is interesting to me because I wonder we don't know if he's the one that shot Dobu or what's going on, but the fact that he's like Odo is cutting off communication with little Daimon pulls into question something with me, like what's he going to do? This is going to push him to do something, either like talk to his brother, divulge something, or he's going to do something rash, like like shooting someone or like it's like when you involve someone in something like this and then you cut them off, it's like you put them in a sort of precarious position, especially him, where he has a strong sense of justice and he wants to help people and bring bad guys to justice. So it's like, I don't know, I'm curious about that. That's just a prediction of what little Daimon will do.
Rewinding, running it back a little bit, you were talking about Dobu, and then we started talking about who the shooter was and started speculating on that and everything. But Dobu believes that it was Tanaka. Like he says it in this episode that it was the skull-face mask. Like he said it in last episode when he got shot too. He's like, yes. Skull-face mask.
Yeah, he was convinced, yeah.
But then in this episode, he says it again, something that leads us to believe that he believes that it was skull-face mask. So he must not have seen the person's face or anything. All he saw was the gun and the shot.
Yeah,
that happened.
I think it's well done too, because based on everything they went through with like the Halloween night and knowing that the lengths this person has gone to to threaten Odo's life. So it's like just with a person's own mental like perspective, it's like this guy's already suspect.
Right.
So but I don't know, it's like, was this person wearing a skull mask? Because we didn't see that. I
guess it's possible that little Daimon or big Daimon or whoever it was that actually pulled the trigger was wearing a skull mask.
Because it was like a big news story. Like people know about, people during Halloween were wearing those skull masks, like intentionally.
But
that's a good, it's an interesting.
I guess that's possible.
But
I think I just thought it was sort of an assumption on his part.
Yeah, that's what I
because
think.
he didn't see enough or something.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I'm leaning towards. Like he assumed it was that person because of it's so fresh in his mind, and this guy is like trying to kill. I guess they're not clear if he's trying to kill Odo or Dobu because they've been hanging out a lot together, and and then he got shot that night, right? So now he's very confused on like what this guy is up to.
I mean, it makes sense that Dobu would think that it was the same guy, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense that it would have been Tanaka ever because his interest is only in Odokawa.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. So there's a reason that they're like it makes like we both agree it makes sense for Dobu to believe that, but they're definitely they got to be using that, you know.
I mean, well, so prior to going back and rewatching those scenes, I didn't even consider that it was someone other than Tanaka. You know. Yeah. It was just, some comments on the internet that made me want to go back and like look at that again and like, oh yeah, it's totally different actually.
Yeah, I wasn't until I saw those screenshots you got or that you posted, and that was really cool. But when I saw that episode the first time, I mean, I was like, oh, it could be Tanaka, but I wasn't convinced. Like, the way that they present it is.
Yeah, you mentioned that last week, and that was part of why I started looking it up anyway. I think was just that, like you said that, and I was like, I hadn't even considered that, but now that you mentioned it, the way they showed it, they didn't show the skull mask. They just showed the hand and the gun. And that was definitely part of it. So
the last thing I want to talk about in this episode, or the last big thing.
Wait, you getting to the last thing already?
Oh, what do you?
So my note before the last thing is porcupine, not hedgehog.
Yes, I was going to bring that up as well. He refers Yano in his rap refers to himself as a porcupine.
Yes.
But then I was wondering, like, if he was doing that on purpose, like people think he often mistake him as a porcupine. But
maybe
it could just simply be that he is a porcupine. Like,
yeah,
so it confused me even more.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
Which is so funny because when he was first introduced, you can go back to the episode like that we talked about it. You said hedgehog, and I was like, oh, hedgehog? Like, I thought maybe porcupine. But,
oh, really?
Because he got the spiky thing. So, I mean, I wasn't convinced either way, but I've been going with the hedgehog thing, and now I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, I don't know either. Anyway, what's your last thing? I'm wondering if it's my last thing.
Well, I have one more note aside from that, but it's essentially so there's a scene nearing the end where Dobu is showing. Because Dobu's had the cam footage, right, from the cab.
Yeah.
And so he's showing Odo this still of a person, and they don't show us who it is, but Odo says Odo says like, oh, is that supposed to be the missing girl? And then he's like the boss's daughter's classmate, and Dobu says no, it's not, but blah blah blah.
But we thought it looked like her. Or something like that,
but then Odo at the end says like, "Oh, that's the mystery kiss person." Like he makes a point of like, I recognize her. And then near the end of the episode, or maybe at the very end,
pretty much the very end.
I think so. There's a part where Goriki is continuing his investigation into Odo's past, and he's talking to some doctor or someone, but they don't reveal anything about that. But then there's a news story where they have found the body that was dumped of a teenage girl, and they identify them as this Mitsuya, who is the Mystery Kiss member that we were talking about earlier. I assume Russian blue. I don't know. She's a blue cat. So this got me thinking that there is a doppelganger of Mitsuya, someone that looks very similar to her. And so the fact that Odo recognized her from the cab footage. And then also during the newscast, he says that's the wrong. He immediately calls it like you got the wrong girl. Like that's not her. And so that it's just got my wheels spinning of like mistaken identity, or it's a setup where that girl, since the girl that is missing is related to the boss, it's the boss's daughter's classmate, is what they say. That they're trying to cover that up somehow. But I don't know. It threw me into more confusion. But I was like, there's something going on here, like some wrinkle that seems kind of big. And
we still have whoever's in Odo's closet.
Yeah, that's still unresolved.
Which is, I don't know what's going on there now.
Which can't be Mitsuya, right?
Yeah,
like,
it can't be either of them.
Because she's been in, I guess not either of them, but because she's been in the, is there like a third doppelganger?
But I don't know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like, or maybe it's no one, which has always been sort of a side speculation with that. Was like
that he's kind of like,
maybe he's bats.
Which ties into Gariki, with he had a CT scan of Odo's brain, and he's been talking to all these people from his past, trying to uncover something, and they pulled into question like the synesthesia and all that. But it got me thinking about, we were talking about earlier, the tracking, right? Because there is that scene in a previous episode where we see Mitsuya hide her phone. And she does it in a way where, like, Yamamoto isn't watching. She does it slyly. And so, like, now that we know Yamamoto is working for Yano, it makes me question whether or not she is, or if she's tied to something else, like Tanaka or someone else. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm very curious about this. I don't have much more to add, but I was just curious what you thought.
I mean, there's that sort of seems to be the central crux of mystery still in this show, is like the girl in Odo's closet, or presumably whatever in Odo's closet, the nothing in Odo's closet, the two identical girls that are nearly identical girls, I guess, but not identical to Odo because he has that synesthesia for faces.
Yeah.
No, I don't even know what to say about it. Just that, like,
we're on the same page.
I'm aware of, like, this is the thing, but I have, like, no real good speculation regarding that. Like, I thought early on, the girl in Odo's closet was the girl who had run away or disappeared or whatever, and she was hiding out in Odo's closet, and she was the girl from Mystery Kiss who had then been replaced by a different girl, and that's why they started wearing the masks, because remember they made a big deal about the fact that they were wearing the masks.
So maybe
and so then that girl must be the boss's daughter, or boss's daughter's school friend, or whatever it is, that looks like her. But then they found a body, and it's not the girl that's currently in Mystery Kiss. It would have to be the girl that was previously in Mystery Kiss for them to identify the body that way, meaning that girl is not in Odo's closet, meaning that there's nothing in Odo's closet. You see where I'm going? I'm just,
I that's so interesting.
Rabbit hole into another rabbit hole. So.
And now I'm wondering with the Shirakawa stuff, that she knew that exact location, and that Odo's already being tracked, and the fact that Mitsuya, or who we believe is Mitsuya, had planted that phone. I'm like, are they connected in some way? Or like what? I don't know.
Right. Well, I mean, so that would have been after the mask thing, because she was wearing the mask, so it wouldn't have been the original Mystery Kiss member who
would have been someone
would have been
else.
Mitsuya. It would have been the doppelganger, the replacement, right? That hid the phone.
So if for some reason,
and that's theoretically the boss's daughter's school friend, right? So maybe the boss has planted that, and maybe Shirakawa's working directly for the boss. Maybe she's a competitor along with Yano.
Maybe that's why Dobu knows her.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot.
Because especially with the debt that she had with Dobu or whatever, like, when Odo suggests, or asked him to, part of their deal to, erase that, he was just like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
like, it was not even a thought. So it was like, there's something going on there. But I wonder with the original Mitsuya Mystery Kiss girl, like if she got embroiled with someone, a romantic relationship, or she crossed someone and then she had to be eliminated. But so they're trying to cover up that, so they replaced her with a look-alike, since they are masked now. I don't know.
The reasons for it are like even more like
we can't even
outside of my ability to speculate. Like my speculation would be like the boss's daughter's friend looked like this girl and wanted to be this girl, so the boss's daughter got her out of there because Yamamoto Yamamoto is the manager of Mystery Kiss already, and he works for the boss somewhat indirectly, but like that whole complicated chain of events that you can imagine.
But you think if that was the case and it came down from the boss, then they would have to switch him out or something, right?
Yeah, but then why would the boss be Well, I guess they're not looking for the girl. They're looking for the footage, and they're looking for the footage not to find the girl, but to cover up their
to eliminate the footage. Maybe.
Yes. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's and maybe it has something to do with like the singer of Mystery Kiss, because like she's the star. I don't know. It's like I don't know if she ties into it somehow, where it's like they weren't masked before, but the one of them crossed her, or I don't know. Yeah, where it's all speculation.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
I'm throwing it all out there. See what sticks, so later I can be like, I said that briefly in a half-cocked
shotgun approach, man.
Yeah. I like how I said half-cocked right when you said shotgun. We're both on the same metaphorical page. The only other thing I was going to say, because I think we're kind of we've kind of run the course with this. There's this. I believe he's a tapir. He's got like a bigger guy with a shorter trunk. It's not like an elephant.
Tattoos and in the
tattoo.
Yeah.
And we saw him previously. I don't know what episode that was, but it was when he was at like a massage parlor or something. And he was sitting a few seats down from Kakihana, and Kakihana thought he was talking to him. Right. Remember that whole thing? That's that guy.
Yeah.
And Odokawa has an interaction with him this episode.
I thought we saw him in the sauna before.
Yeah, we might have, yeah.
I don't remember who was there. I think it was Odokawa before, too.
And Kakihana,
and like
they might have been.
Oh, might have been both of them, yeah. Very early on, episode 2 or episode 3 or something like that,
I think you're right.
Yeah.
So I was wondering with him, like, what's his deal? And then part of me was like, is he the boss? Like, I just had that thought of like, in plain sight, like
sort of what I was thinking too. That he's probably the boss. I mean, he's definitely Yakuza because of the tattoos, right? My impression was that he's the boss.
And he surprised Odokawa because he knew his name, and then he says something like, I was early on, I was convinced you were the one that kidnapped that girl.
Right.
But now I only think there's a 5% chance that you did it or something.
Right.
Odokawa was just like kind of gave him like a weird side
So then it's like, if he's the boss, why would he even think there was a 5% chance? Because he would probably know what happened to that girl if it was any of the scenarios that I've speculated thus far. So
unless it's someone double crossing him within, or
right, or maybe Yamamoto for some reason covering something up because of, like you say, the lead singer of Mystery Kiss, who we haven't seen a whole ton of her. So
it's been a while.
That's definitely something that could come back. And then there's the fucking comedians, man.
Oh, the comedians, and we got a little bit of them too. Nothing substantial.
What do they have to do with this?
I know.
I don't know.
But you just reminded me with Yamamoto, because when he was talking to Odokawa, he didn't reveal what it was, but it came about that like he was like, you're gonna go to jail no matter what. But Yamamoto was basically saying like, they have dirt on me. Like there's something that they that I've done that won't look good if it gets out. And so I'm like, does that tie into any of this too? But
or is it just the Badger games he's been running? And I don't know.
Is it just all that? But I don't know. Either way, good show.
So much.
One of the best to talk about.
You can literally do a whole show just about that, I think.
Yeah, and when it's over, we might have to.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see if we can fit that into the schedule. Anyway, and I think that's all we got on I mean, that's not all we have. It's just all we're going to do, because there's only so much time in this podcast. Good.
I can only throw so many. We can only throw so many theories at the wall before we run out of breath. So
right. Next up is Megalobox 2 Nomad, which George is watching and I am not. So
I've already talked so much. I gotta talk more.
It is time for me to get another beer.
So this week's Megalobox, I am enjoying it highly. I love it. I recommend it. This week we pick up from where we left off. So there's a whole thing going on where Roscoe, the CEO of Roscoe, his name's Sakama, and he's the one that's developed this BES technology, which is the medical gears sort of thing that helped Mac regain his ability to move. He was paralyzed and able to box, and he's having adverse reactions to that, and he wanted to get out of the boxing game after winning the Megalonia tournament. And Sakama does not want this, of course. Mac is like the perfect poster child for this technology, and he's trying his hardest to brush under the rug all of these negative adverse effects he's having. And so he makes a smart move at the end of last episode where he's like, what if you could have one last match and it could be against Gearless Joe? And I was thinking more about this. Like, he knows that Gearless Joe is an inspiration to him getting back into the ring. But obviously, Gearless Joe, was won the Megalonia tournament from last season. Spoilers, as you might imagine. And so he's a bit of a legend, and he's a bit obscure. He's as covered in the first half of this season. He was known as Nomad, and he was shying away from the spotlight, and
it's reclusive.
Yeah, and had sort of changed his appearance a bit, and was hiding away. But anyway, he's come back now, and he's trying to make amends and whatnot. But anyway, so this is a perfect turn. This is a perfect choice for Sakuma to not only appeal to Mac, but also appeal to the masses. If Mac can fight Gearless Joe, and win, just them fighting alone would be a great publicity stunt. But if Matt can win, this would be even better for the technology that he's working on.
Yeah.
And so the way that he does this in this episode is he makes it public first. It becomes a big news headline. It's all over the news. Everyone's talking about it, which I was thinking about is very smart because it's like, Joe hears about it before he gets like an official offer to do it. So he's already able to think about it, process it, and whatnot. And he's not jumping on it. He's just like, just not really having much of a reaction at all.
No, I'm retired.
He's like, I don't want to do that. And meanwhile, he's been rebuilding the gym, Team Nowhere, that he and Coach Nanbu, who rest in peace, had started with Sachio and these other kids that it could become part of their family. But during the course of this episode, Joe kind of finally, he'd already started this journey of like confronting his past, but he confronts specifically the reason why he fights or why he's fought ever. And in the course of that, he's going to visit Lou, who is the guy that lost to Mac this season. And saying like, has been in critical condition, but he's like slowly recovering, but he's still in the hospital. And so he's walking up to his hospital room, and who comes out of the door but Mac and his family, his wife and his young son. And I really like this moment because it's like you kind of had to have them cross paths, and it was very casual and it was a very heartfelt interaction. But it made sense for them to meet here. Mac was going to pay his respects to Lou, and he's a good guy. It's not like he's not a monster or anything. Like he respects the whole boxing dynamic and whatnot. And so he tells Joe, and just in a matter of words, like that he was an inspiration to him. Watching him win the Megalonia tournament. And I don't know the timeline of like, because Mac was a boxer, wasn't doing good, hung up his gloves, became a cop, got paralyzed, and then got this revolutionary technology to be able to box again. So I don't know when in the time frame of that Joe was doing all his stuff, but for whatever reason, he looks up to Joe, and that's why he wants to fight him. So then Joe ends up talking to Lou, and Lou's basically like, Lou wants to fight him as well, and they'd already kind of made an agreement that once Joe is kind of like done his, he's kind of rebuilding the gym and like trying to make amends with Sachio. And so he's like, once you've handled all your personal stuff, like I want to fight you. But then he's like, you have to fight Mac. You can't, like, you're gonna fight him. Like, you can't promise to fight me and then say no to him. I don't know. It's like, okay. And Joe's just like, whatever. But then after that, the scene that I enjoyed, Joe goes to the coach's grave, and which he's done several times, but he reflects on one of the last times he spoke with him, and the coach is on his deathbed, but basically just saying like, these kids will eventually understand where you're coming from. But he finally just puts in his mind like why he was fighting back then, because he was telling himself at the time and telling everyone else that the coach is dying and he's all this medical expenses and there's these surgeries he can get. I'm gonna fight for him, and I'm gonna win and get this money. But in actuality, he was really just fighting because that's all he knows how to do. And
I mean, that's where the first season sort of started, right?
yeah. And in the first season, like he wanted to prove himself. Like he was like, undocumented lone wolf,
right?
Who loved boxing, but it was stuck in this underground, seedy world of throwing matches and just, being, I mean, he never really conformed to any of that, but he was existing in that world.
Yeah, it seemed like, well, from what I watched in the first season, it seemed like sort of a classist sort of fight, right? Like there's the Megalonias, like the upper classes or whatever, and he was like, one of these poor people at the bottom or whatever that couldn't even really aspire to that.
That's true,
but did, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that is relevant.
I think in a certain degree, because it gives that first season that drive to want to for him to want to prove himself. Like he loved boxing, and the world that he was currently living in was just, it was fixed fights. It was disingenuous. It wasn't like the real thing.
Right.
But I mean, the Megalonia tournament is open to all legal citizens, so it's not like just for the elite. But he's so far removed from society at the beginning of the very beginning of the show that he doesn't even have like an identity. He doesn't even have a name. But yeah, so he's basically like come to terms with the fact that when the coach was dying, he was just going back to what he knew. Like he was like, I'm just gonna fight again because like that helped last time, right? Like I actually, that helped me get somewhere, and that I inspired people, and like maybe this will just fix everything again. And so he kind of just comes to terms with like that he was doing that selfishly, which is good. But then so that leads to him accepting, like in his own mind, accepting this match against Mac and like doing it for himself. And then he's talking to this other coach who's older, who was in the first season, but I think he fought him. I can't remember exactly, but this guy has been coaching on and off Sachio because he's picked up boxing, right? In Joe's absence. And is still kind of doing that, even though he's awful at it. But so Joe's talking to him, and he's talking about why he's going to fight Mac, and he talks about Chief. I don't know if you remember from the beginning of this season. It's kind of the first arc. He meets this guy, and they form a bond, and Joe helps him, trains him to win his match to save his homeland,
right,
or his people's land. And not their homeland, but and then they had a lot in common. Like they had a checkered emotional past, and so they were able to relate to each other. And he inevitably helped Joe, gain the courage and the insight to want to face his past and go back. And I guess this Matt guy is what he tells this other coach reminds him of Chief, and so he feels a fondness for that. I think after like meeting Mac face to face too. Earlier in this episode, it was pleasant exchange and heartfelt. So it's like, I don't know, I like that, where it's like I want to fight you because like you seem like a good dude, not like I want to kick your ass, like
right.
It's like, I don't know, sort of this nobility thing, I guess. But this all leads to Joe. So Joe accepts he's gonna fight, and so he goes to where Sachio is, and Sachio is in one of the rings of like the underground. It's like empty. He's just like practicing, I guess, and whatnot, throwing, just practicing punches.
Shadow boxing.
Yeah, there you go. That's the word. Shadow boxing. And Joe approaches him with this other coach guy. I don't know his name, but he basically finally, because when Joe showed up again, Sachio immediately rejected him and wanted nothing to do with him. If you listen to his words anyway, right? Just yelling at him to leave town and whatnot. But Joe had never asked or put into words reconciliation or like trying to reach out. But in this instance, he does. He says like, "Hey, I'm going to fight Mac, and I'm asking for your help in doing that." So he's kind of extending the olive branch to join forces again and kind of and to make up. And Sachio, of course, is like, fuck you. Like, I don't want anything to do with you. But then the main guy that you see a lot in the first season, he's an important character, but he kind of runs the underground, matches. He's there kind of watching from the sidelines, and he's like, well, if you guys can't settle this with words, why don't you settle it in the ring? Which I never considered. It makes sense. It's a boxing show.
Yeah.
But I loved how they did it because essentially the deal is if Joe wins, then Sachio has to give up boxing. Because they talk about this too, where it's like they bring up the whole fact that like you're not like for Sachio, like you're only boxing because after Joe left, you know, you're trying to fill this need or like you're chasing something that isn't really you. Like this isn't your calling, and it's apparent in the fact that like, you know, you're not getting anywhere with it. So Joe's like, you know, if I win, you'll leave boxing. You know, you'll stop boxing. You'll leave the ring. And if I win, oh wait, did I say it wrong? And if Sachio wins, then Joe will leave town, right? That's what Sachio keeps saying he wants.
Oh, yeah.
And so they get in the ring, and of course, like Joe, like I mean, he's not immediately pummeling him. He's like dodging and whatnot, and then he just starts, you know, kind of wailing on him, lovingly. You know, he's not going berserk or anything.
Lovingly wailing on him.
But he's like he's not holding back, but he's also not, you know, going, you know, all in, right? But it gets to the point where like Sachio
is this gearless?
Joe is gearless and Sachio puts on his gear.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting, but probably good, you know, just to have a slight advantage. But doesn't really matter in the scheme of things. But so yeah, Joe is clearly winning, and Sachio is like, you know, his blood running out of his face, you know, dripping out of his face, you know, getting on the mat, and at a certain point, Joe is kind of being merciful, where he's like, you know, let's, you know, we don't have to keep doing this. And Sachio is, you know, takes that, you know, very much the wrong way, and is, you know, hurts his pride. And so they keep going, but then it escalates to this point where they have, I don't know, it's just so fun where they're physically duking it out, but then they start like having this emotional exchange where Sachio is like yelling at him like to quit being selfish, you know, quit thinking this is all about you, and that you can just make everything better. And then Joe agrees with him. He's like, I am being selfish. Like the only reason I ever fought was for me. You know, when the coach was dying, that was for me. And so he's basically copying to all of that and not trying to make it, you know, be this, you know, grandstanding or, you know, this noble thing that he's doing to save the coach or do for anyone else. And that finally gets through to Sachio. And so it's not like, it's like clear, it's like this like mixed thing where there's words exchanged and punches, and tears are shed at the end. And so they kind of reach an agreement, in a matter, you know, as men, right? Where it's not explicitly stated, but it gave to me like, I think on paper, maybe it wouldn't be as satisfying, but like watching it, it was satisfying because I could just imagine Sachio ever since the coach died and Joe left, even though he told Joe to leave because he was emotional, he was a kid, and he blamed him for not being there towards the end, when he, you know, was saying he was fighting for everyone else. But then he ended up picking up boxing, you know, anyway. So it's like he had to replace it with the very same thing. So just imagine me of like a hurt, you know, a child who's naive and innocent and hurt, but also trying to pretend like they're an adult and take everything on. And so like at this moment, Sachio and Joe, I think, had a release of just, you know, I can finally like relax, like, because I truly believe that Sachio is the most important person to Joe in his life right now, that the coach is gone, and he's been denying himself of that the whole time. And Sachio too, he doesn't have parents, he has his buddies, but like he doesn't really have anyone that, you know, to look up to anymore, and he blames Joe for everything. And so it gives them this relief. But then at the very end of the episode, Sachio's kind of walking away from the ring, and they both kind of have like a slight smile on their face. But then Joe looks down at his arm, and it's like shaking, and then he starts like doubling over, and then he just like passes out on the ground like something's horribly wrong. And it made me, and it's like, oh my God, like what, why at this time, why did this have to happen? Things are finally looking good, but I don't know. I'm curious how it'll play out, but I liked it because I feel like in a lot of, when you experience trauma, whether it's like physical or emotional, your body tenses up, and for them, like this is 5 years ago. I finally learned that. I wasn't sure the time frame, but the coach died like 5 years ago, roughly. And so I feel like I don't know. Like I'm just speculating that they've had this tensed up in their bodies and their minds collectively, and now that it's been released to a certain extent. I don't know. Joe's body is like giving out on him, or like, because you know how that happens sometimes. If like in a car accident, for instance, like your body tenses up, and then like a few days later, you might start to relax and like actually your anxiety starts to go down, and you start to level out, and then like I don't know, you start to feel your injuries. Like if you broke your arm or something, like you might not feel it right away. And so this would be a very delayed version of that. But I'm just me speculating on if that's the case. But anyway, I probably could have summed that up quicker, but that's most of the episode.
All right. I was going to say something. It was a while ago. I don't remember what it was. It was probably some joke.
The other thing I'll say is with the Roscoe is the medical, they're working on the medical technology.
Oh, that was one of them.
Oh, really?
Roscoe P. Coltrane. That was all I was going to say. Continue.
So I guess it's revealed that they have plans to, they have like military contracts, or like their main aspiration is to aid the military. And the Shirato Corporation, which is largely featured in the first season, is run by this lady Yukiko, and she's starting to have second thoughts about like this arrangement they have with Roscoe, because they've kind of teamed up. And so she brings this up during the board meeting, and it's very much dismissed of like, I guess they were in like financial ruin, or like leading that way when Roscoe approached them, and now they're in the positive. But then her brother is a professor now, and he has been since the end of the first season, I guess. But he's doing all these reports and essays on the negative effects of the BES technology, which we've seen, Mac experience, but there's no like hard evidence of it. But she's starting to believe him too, and kind of wants to back out of this. But she tried to bring it up during the board meeting, and it did not go over well. So it's another interesting element to what's going on. I don't know how that's going to play out, because it seems like things are going to go sour, but they're kind of locked in at this point. But anyway, that's Megalobox.
So Joe and Sachio are now like sort of aligned then, like because their fight, they got out all their stuff that they had to resolve.
Yeah.
And they're now aligned. But then this Joe sort of falls over.
That was a cliffhanger, yeah, where it's like, oh great.
Was it his left arm?
It was his right arm.
It was his right arm. Okay.
Yeah.
So not a heart attack then.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it was his left arm, I would have assumed heart attack.
Yeah. I didn't see his face droop or anything, or have a stroke, or
right.
That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. It's so in the first season, did this really well too. There's certain points where it's like oh, like you kind of think, like I remember watching the first season and be like, oh, everything seems like kind of predictable. Like I'm enjoying it, but it's like, oh yeah, they're gonna fight this and fight that, and they're gonna get there. And then something would happen where like everything seems like it's going well, and then like just like real life, like some crazy left turn would come that isn't aliens or like magical powers, but like some real life thing that gets in the way and shuts everything down seemingly. And then so I imagine they're going, we're going to have the repercussions of that, but then they're going to somehow.
Now Sachio's going to have to fight Mac.
Ooh, maybe. Which was my, I mean, not that he would fight Mac, but like I speculated earlier this season that that Joe wouldn't be fighting, and that he and Sachio would make up, and he'd be training Sachio to fight, to do some fight for, whatever reason. So that would be interesting if Sachio had to fight in his place. But that would be weird too, because I don't think that would, satisfy Mac or the audience,
I remember the other joke I was going to do. Lou, you mean the girl with the pretty hair?
Yeah, she's in this. She's in this too. Wow, like she got her butt kicked. Didn't know she was a boxer, but she's pretty good.
That was a reference to Shadow's House for anyone that doesn't listen to the other podcast that we do every week.
So, there's a plug.
Well, it's not a other podcast. It's We do multiple episodes a week.
Yeah.
The other episode of the podcast.
It doesn't end up in this episode.
Yeah. We're not talking about our other podcast, which is called Pillow Talk, where we talk about the luxury and comfort of Queen Anne pillows.
Which is sponsored by Squarespace.
Yeah. So it sounds like everything's sort of coming to a head in this show. Like everything's sort of coming together, but then we've got this, what happened with Joe sort of making a left turn for what we thought, like everything seemed to be like building towards a structure, and then that structure sort of crumbles a little bit. And then you're like, I got to rebuild from here. And
it's one thing I really like about this show. And they stated in this episode that it's 2 months till the slated match between Joe and Max. So it's like, okay, we have some time, but is it enough? Like, it's probably going to put,
I mean, we have 3 episodes. That's how much time we have.
Yeah, I'm just saying in universe,
right.
There's 2 months till the match.
Are we going to pick it up in 2 months' time? And I don't know. Yeah.
Hey, if this extends into another season, I would love it. But I think they are going to wrap it up.
I would imagine they will. They did pretty good with the first one as far as wrapping up the story.
That's true.
They didn't even really leave it very open, but they managed to find a hole to
something to do with it
to squeeze into for this one. Yeah.
Yeah, because I caught up for the second season, and then I was like, do we need a second season? And now I'm like, yes, we do. Now we need a third. But I just want it. We don't need it. But anyway, that's enough boxing talk. Let's get to our next show, which is Higehiro. After being rejected, I shaved and took on a high school runaway. It's a story of the ages, I'm told.
Episode 10 of this. So last of our episodes where I talked about this, I predicted that the writers would sort of shoehorn in that Sayu has learned from her mistakes and everything's better for her now, because although it's very apparent that she hasn't learned anything from her mistakes and doesn't really take any responsibility for the bad choices that she made, that they would, in some way make us feel that she had. So in this episode, she has learned from her mistakes, because the dialogue that she's been written or has been written for her. Yeah, the dialogue that has been written for her. She says, without Yoshida, she wouldn't have learned from her mistakes. But since she has, now she's ready to face her troubles all on her own. Yep.
Wow.
Sort of the beginning of this show.
Just telling you.
Yeah, basically. She's saying, oh, yeah, without you, I wouldn't have learned from all my mistakes of the past, even though she clearly hasn't. Whatever. Anyway,
not important.
Why does it say Yamada? That's not his name. My notes are wrong. I have the wrong name in my notes. Yoshida and Sayu are both getting anxious.
Well, you did that last week, where you said Yamada and you meant Yoshida, and then you were like, George is going to go back and post and edit it. And I don't know if you caught it, but I literally plugged in.
Did you actually do it?
Yes, I did. So you might have to check back on that, see how I did.
I vaguely remember that happening while we were recording, but I don't remember noticing it when listening to it. So good job, I suppose.
Thank you.
So Yamada and Sayu, no, Yoshida. It must be like a Google autocorrect or something. I don't know how it gets Yamada out of Yoshida.
Yeah. Reminds me of a different show. But...
About your neighbors?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking of another one, Yamada's first time.
Oh, no, I meant your neighbor Totoro.
You mean that bunny?
It's not a fucking bunny. I will hurt you.
Don't say the F word when you're talking about Totoro.
I will stab you with a rusty fork. Fucking bunny. Anyway, back on track, possibly.
I only do it to get a rise.
I know.
And it works.
Yeah, I know. That's why our other friend who does that all the time does it as well.
Mm-hmm. She cares even less than I do.
Yeah. She knows the show, but I don't remember how it started. We were at Comic-Con one year. This is totally like off topic, and this is your fault.
Yep,
so,
yep.
We were at Comic-Con one year, and she was like, "Oh, look, it's that bunny from that show." And I was like, "It's not a fucking bunny." Yeah, and it's become a running joke since then.
Yep.
Let's just leave it at that. She will never listen to this podcast, so it's fine.
Won't get this deep anyway.
Yeah, certainly not. So Yoshida and Sayu are both getting anxious about Sayu's imminent departure since her brother has now found her, and they've made a deal where she has like a week to sort of, wrap up her life in Tokyo and go back to Hokkaido with him. Anyway,
she's not resisting that at all. She's just like, all right.
No, I mean she sort of made the deal with him because the other option was that he would basically take her immediately, right?
Oh, okay.
So she made the deal like, give me a week.
It's a concession
to sort of So yeah. And then I guess the next thing is Mishima, the jealous girl who works in Yoshida's office with him, and he are actually Mishima and Yoshida's male coworker, whose name I don't remember, / friend, both sort of suggest that maybe he should go to Hokkaido with Sayu if he's, so worried about her, I guess. And then, ultimately he decides to do just that, and he tells Sayu, and Sayu's like super overjoyed. So she's totally ready to face her troubles alone, but she doesn't have to because Yoshida's going to go back to Hokkaido with her.
He's learning all sorts of stuff.
Kind of defeats the whole purpose of that heartfelt talk they had earlier where she, talked about how she had learned her lessons and whatever. Anyway, yeah, there's more revealed in this episode about how her mother sucks.
Which we already knew, right?
But yeah, I mean, there's just not. I mean, the reasons why her mother sucks.
Yeah.
That's basically her father, her and her older brother's father left her mother for a younger woman, I guess, right before Sayu was born. So then after Sayu was born, her mother always thought of her as sort of a reminder of the fact that her husband didn't love her.
Oh, okay.
So she, her mother's basically hated her whole life, shitty mother. We know this. It's not really revealing anything else. It's just sort of revealing reasons why, and it's supposed to be meaningful. Honestly, this show, this ending, what have we got left? We got 3 episodes left. This ending is going to be crap. I don't know how it's not going to be crap. Like they've done a good job of building up the drama and making it interesting and stuff, but the way it's going now, I'm certainly going to be disappointed by the ending. I mean, they could turn it around. That would be an amazing turnaround. But yeah, right now, no.
You're not so interested in the whole going to Hokkaido.
I mean, I am interested in it, and I'm interested in her and her mother's interaction. But I feel like I can sort of predict how all of that's going to go, especially with Yoshida going with them and. I don't know. It's just gonna be a bunch of bullcrap. That's all. It's just gonna be a bunch of fake, heartfelt bullcrap, right? Yeah, the fake violins. Just let me pull on your emotions.
But like not earned, right?
Definitely not earned. I mean, they
forced.
Yes, so they have set it up pretty good where they could earn. They could do a good ending, they could do a good story, and they could have actually earned it, but they're not doing it. They're shoehorning it all in.
Damn.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm still gonna watch probably the last 3. I mean, it could take a really bad turn, I guess, and I might drop it even with only a couple episodes left to go. But at this point, I pretty much know it's going to end like crap. So it'd have to be pretty hard left turn for me to drop it, I think.
Yeah. Have to do something. Yeah.
Anyway, that's really all I have to say about it. This episode was poop.
Damn. I'm sorry.
I mean, overall, it's still probably a 5 on this episode, and the show overall is still probably like a 6. But yeah, it's just disappointing to see that this is the route that they're taking to get to the ending. That's all.
Yeah, disappointing.
Yeah. Speaking of disappointing, what do we have next?
So this is a show we've been covering this whole season called the Yakumo. Let's Make a Mug 2. And it's kind of like putting down a cute little puppy, but we've stuck with it so long, and we need to free up some space in this podcast.
It's cute girls doing cute things, and there's really not much to talk about every week. And this is sort of the discussion that we had over the last week about sort of trimming the fat. This is some of the fat. It's a slice of life, and slice of lives in general. There's not like something that we can report on every week all the time. So in the future, we're probably gonna shows like this. We will probably do like every other week or every third week, or when something happens, we'll do cover the last few episodes, something like that. But with this one, it's just I don't know. Like it's cute, but it's short, and it's like story. There isn't one. You know?
Yeah, cute fluff.
Yeah.
And I feel like, well, if you listen to last episode, Tony kept his mouth shut during My Hero Academia because he felt like he was being too negative about it. But we're both still watching that. This one we are not watching as of now, but I feel like I was doing that. I feel like I was harping on it every week, where I was just like, I mean, not every week, but like
you weren't a fan of the animated portion. You seem to like. Are you still watching the Seiyus or?
No, I'm not watching. I'm not watching any of it.
Yeah,
and it's not an offensive show, but I think I was just holding it to a higher standard. I expected more of it, and with its limited runtime, it's just not delivering. It's not, and I don't even think it has a chance of delivering. So it's like. It just kind of is what it is. It's like an after-school thing that
even for a slice of life, it's a fairly mediocre show.
Yeah,
it doesn't really. I don't know. Like I think back to like a good slice of life, like Azumanga Daioh. I love every single one of those characters.
Yeah, well, it's also a hilarious show too. Like.
Right. And this one, not so much. Like the characters they're all fine, I guess, but it's very middling, very mediocre.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's only 2 episodes left. Well, 3 if we count this one. So, we're 3/4 of the way into the season. Like I say, time to trim the fat, and we've talked about it too long. So let's move on to the Saint's magic power is omnipotent. Might be my favorite new show this season. Well, no, ODDTAXI. Yeah.
It's tough.
ODDTAXI's really good. This one's good too, but
it's a top contender.
Yeah, and this is actually a pretty good episode. It's not unpredictable, anything that happens in this episode, but it was good. So in the last episode, Sei and the Ice Knight are going to travel to this region of the kingdom where all of the herbs are grown, and there's lots of herbologists or whatever, I guess, right?
Okay.
So they, the first thing we see is they arrive at this place, which is called Klausner's Domain. Klausner's Domain.
Oh, yeah.
Klausner's Domain? I just keep saying it because I feel like I'm saying it wrong every time I say it.
Everyone knows Klausner's
Domain.
I used to vacation there when I was a wee lad.
It still sounds weird every time I say it. Anyway, so when they get there, Sei is, asking about the herbs, because there are herbs in this region that don't grow in any other part. Don't nod your head like that, Mr. 420.
Herb. Sorry, I'm listening. Go on. Tell me about these magical herbs.
So there's herbs that grow in this region that don't grow anywhere else. So she's, interested in learning about that. And of course, everyone there is interested in, sort of getting to know the new saint.
Is that confirmed at this point? Like she is the saint, or it's
presumed? So in the central city of the kingdom where she lives, it's been like decreed by the king that she's the saint, basically.
Nice.
In sort of these outer regions, like where they are now, Klausner's Domain, still sounds weird. They are still interested in seeing some provers, I guess, like they know that she's been declared the saint, and that must mean something, but, they want to see it for themselves. It's Missouri, the show me state, right? So...
Pixar didn't happen.
Yeah, basically. She's going around and meeting people and learning about herbs and stuff like that. And the Ice Knight says he's going to be doing some scouting missions around, nearby the castle of the town. And so she should just, learn more. And she's introduced to apparently a very powerful herbologist. I don't know what you'd call it. What do they call them? Alchemists. She's like the local like super alchemist, basically. So she's introduced to her and like gets to learn from her, and then this super alchemist person says that there was this person that lived in the town a long time ago that had like this super magical power that they call golden magic that no one else has been able to reproduce. And it sort of reminds Sei of when she's doing saintly conjuring. So Sei is sort of wondering if this person was maybe a saint or something like that. Anyway, this super alchemist, local celebrity alchemist, who's like an old woman, like an old granny type character.
Okay.
She, unlocks her safe and pulls out this book and says, "Oh, this is the diary of this, super magi that used to exist here." And so Sei reads it, and I think I made the joke. I don't remember if it was last time we covered this or the time before. I made the joke that the saint's magic power is in fact just love, right? Like love is what activates it or whatever. In reading this, it becomes somewhat more clear that that's actually what they're going for here, because she's reading the diary, and this woman is, saying like, "I love this region so much," and then bad things are happening, and then her brother gets sick. I think it's her brother. And then she's all this love that she feels for her brother or whatever, and then suddenly some golden magic spell happens, and like it cures all of their lands of the miasma, which is what makes the monsters happen and everything. Yeah. So she reads that, and so Sei's sort of coming to understand that that's what's going on. But then she's interrupted by someone coming in and saying, "Oh, the knights have returned from their, patrol or whatever." And they apparently encountered some really big high-level monsters, and like most of them are injured and
we need you.
Like in bad shape, basically, right? And of course, she thinks back to the time that they were out in the forest before, and the Ice Knight got attacked by the saber-toothed tiger thing, and that's the last time her, saintly power thing happened. And anyway, she goes running to the location where the Ice Knight is, and all the other, knights that are there. And she sees the Ice Knight sort of, slumped up against a wall, sort of covered in blood, and she basically freaks out, thinking the worst, and golden magic everywhere, right? Saintly powers. And it turns out he wasn't actually injured that bad. He was covered in the blood of either the monsters or other knights or something like that. But anyway,
he's just playing dead.
It happened. She basically cured the land of, all the bad stuff. And then there's, after that, her and the Ice Knight are having a conversation, sort of discussing like why this power is happening, like what it is that brings it about and stuff like that, which we know, and she knows as well. And she gets embarrassed and basically runs away. And then we get a little bit of internal monologue from her saying, yeah, I know, but I can't tell him that because the saint's magic power is love. She literally says it in inner monologue. So she basically is admitting that she is in love with the Ice Knight, and
but can't tell him that.
Right, can't tell him that, because I don't know why. Because
feelings,
Japanese girls, I don't know. Yeah, exactly that.
Well, I get it. It's hard. Love is hard.
So she can't tell him that. She can't tell him like why. She can't tell him that the saint's magic power is actually just love, because that would be essentially admitting that she's in love with him.
And it's probably also not the way she wants to confess her love. Like,
probably not,
oh, yeah, I'm super powerful because I love you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The only thing that ties all of these events together is the fact that I love you. Oh, did I just say that out loud? Shit.
I got a dentist appointment to reach, so see ya.
Anyway, I mean, that's pretty much what happens. So we get a little bit more development on the love between Sei and the Ice Knight. And, I mean, learning about this other region is mildly interesting. I don't know how important it is to the plot or anything. It's mostly just a way to reveal that the Saint's magic power is love, which we already knew, or I already knew. I think most people assume that.
You keep saying, quote, the Saint's magic power is, and I keep wanting you to say omnipotent, but you're saying love. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Love is omnipotent.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Nice.
A equals B, B equals C, therefore A equals C. Math.
Love is everywhere. Sort of a...
Elvis is everywhere.
Sort of an issue. I was hoping...
Elvis is everything. Elvis is everybody. Elvis is still the king.
Reigns supreme. All right.
Do you know what I was referencing?
No.
Oh, okay. The Mojo Nixon song.
Oh, yeah, I have no idea.
Pretty obscure reference. It was popular in the late 80s, early 90s. I don't remember. Yeah. Elvis is, what is the name of the song actually? Elvis is Everywhere by Mojo Nixon. Yeah.
Okay.
Check it out.
I got 2 songs to check out.
What was the other one?
Tony's Theme by the Pixies.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's your fault. You still haven't checked it out. I mean, we've done a whole nother episode since the last time you mentioned it.
I know. Several days have passed.
I know.
And yet I still haven't heard Tony's Theme. If we could secure the rights, I would put it as our theme for the episode, but we cannot. But we can't. What we can do...
I mean, we could, but we're not going to because it probably costs too much.
Yes. Well, that's why we have a Patreon. If you would like us to have better songs.
Nah. I mean, I can just sing it for you. This song is about a superhero named Tony. It's called Tony's Theme.
Do a cover.
I mean, I just did.
Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next show?
Yes.
I'm sorry, dear listeners, that you had to endure that. I will not be editing it out.
Not. I was going to say yes again so that you could edit it out if you want.
Nope. But that leads us to your eternity. Leads us to your eternity. Yours. How is your eternity doing?
Still working on it.
Yeah.
This feels like it's going to take forever.
Never feels like an eternity till it's over. But yeah.
I don't think, no, that doesn't work.
Don't question it. Just move on. All right, Gugu. What do you know about Gugu?
Gugu and Fushi get revenge on the townsfolk by having Fushi scare them.
Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't make a note about that, but that is absolutely what happens.
That is what happens in the very beginning. Yeah,
and it's kind of fun. It's very quick. It's very quick.
Yeah. Just a little.
Are you still ahead in the manga of this?
No.
Oh, okay.
We are even, so I will have to read more to get ahead or watch more to get ahead in one way or another. But this one caught up exactly to where I was because I had finished chapter 21, which I think I hadn't read last time I talked about it. I did read, but I didn't get any further than that. So, and this ends exactly at the end of chapter 21. So
nice.
Yeah.
I was I really liked this episode, except the ending. Not that I hated it, but I liked the bulk of the episode more than the cliffhanger. But yeah, I guess there's not. I only have 3 notes, so I don't have a lot to say. But since
like 9 or 10.
Oh wow. Gugu teaches Fushi about death. That's my first note.
Oh, okay.
Which I thought was
my first note is Gugu refuses to go back to Boozman's.
That's so that's a little after that, I suppose. But yeah, I like that conversation where Gugu's asking. They're having a conversation about who this person. Well, actually, what happens first is Reen's dog runs up to the tent that they're in.
Yeah.
And Reen's dog's name is something, and so
Mir.
Oh, Mir. Yeah, nice. Good job. I mean, you're reading
like the space station or the.
That's true.
The cat-like things in Africa.
Meerkat. Good job. You're reading this and watching it, so I'm not going to give you too much credit. But
I just remember because it's like the reverse of Reen, but it's an
Oh.
M instead of the
instead of
N,
an
right?
N, yeah,
I
Mir.
don't know.
Okay, that's kind of cool. That's a very cute dog. Very cute.
Oh, yeah.
Adorable.
Fluffy little white Pomeranian, large for a
It's
Pomeranian,
got these
but
very like
Pomeranian-like.
thick-lined, round eyes, like
Yeah.
perfectly round eyes. Very cute.
Yeah, he's cute.
But yeah, so Mir runs up to them, finds where they're at because they're kind of like hiding away. Gugu doesn't want to go back to Buzman and all them, because he's still butthurt about having been a science experiment.
Yeah.
And all that. And so when Mir runs up, Fushi refers to him as Joan or Joan.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And which is reminding me because it's something that you had pointed out because I don't know if anybody's watching the show Joran, but that's a current running show that we had started and dropped because it wasn't good. But if you like it, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Since we only watched...
It wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it looked really good. It looked really good, and it had cool action sequences, but the story to me was very not good. But
all right, fair enough.
But yeah, there was redeeming qualities about it. But if you're listening and you're still watching that show, I would love to hear someone's take on it. Because you drop shows sometimes and you wonder. It'd be cool to know. But anyway, so not Joran, but Joan, because you had pointed this out.
Yes. Well, I mistakenly said Joran several times when I was first saying the name of the wolf.
You made a mistake, and I didn't ream you about it for like weeks afterwards. Damn.
Well, no, you didn't. It was right in that episode. You said Joran, like the show that we dropped, and I was like, no, that can't be it.
See, I helped you. I helped you instead of hurting you. I need to change that. But I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
But anyway, so Joan is the name of the wolf that this nameless boy that we meet in the first episode, if you haven't seen it, very good episode, that introduces us to this whole concept of the show we're watching. But and so
and the way Fushi says it is, I don't know,
Joan.
Cute, cool. No, it's that he's saying, oh, that was what someone called me when they saw my face, or something like that for the first time.
And then he says,
it's just an interesting way of phrasing it.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh, what happened to him? And then like, oh, he what did he say? He was like
he stopped moving.
Yeah, stopped
something
moving.
Like that.
Yeah, he was empty or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so Gugu takes this opportunity to explain to him what death is. And,
the becoming empty thing.
Yeah. And it's kind of this whole exchange, like it's not as simple as you might think. And it just it's one of the things I really like about this show. The whole idea of like trying to explain death to a child is essentially, like in this instance is what's going on. And I really like that. Like I like that that take on like the way that they've set everything up with this character Fushi. But it's really cool, like just to see him learn that and tie it together to not only the wolf, but the boy and all these, the Oniguma and March, everyone, he's witnessed so much death, and he's just now learning what it is, and so I don't know, it's really cool.
Yeah, and then Gugu he ties it together that all the people that Fushi can turn into are people that have died. And he says, oh, so if I die, will you be able to turn into me?
Yeah.
And Fushi's like, yeah, probably. And Gugu's like, oh, I kind of like that.
And Fushi doesn't...
That I'll be remembered, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
And Fushi at first doesn't really get it. And he explains that, like, and which was so touching that because of his... And we get a little backstory of
Gugu.
Of Gugu's life, and he thought he had parents, but he really didn't. The people he thought were his parents were his employers, or employers of his older brother. So he was just kind of like around, and so his whole world, we learned how he and his brother became to just be on their own,
right?
And so that was interesting too.
I kind of forgot about that. Yeah.
And then this leads to, since Mir, the little dog, had found them, it leads Reen to trace back to find where they're at. And she's been looking for them, which I also like this. I like the whole gag because like last episode, there's a whole thing with Gugu and he left and it was emotional. And then Fushi was trying to take on all his duties, right? Especially like cooking food, and he was awful at it. And now we learn that Reen is trying to do the same thing, and she's making some sort of purple goop or something.
Yeah.
and then she not related to that, but she talks later about her family and stuff and issues she has, and she says that like she likes the color purple and she wants to wear purple, but she's forced to wear green for whatever reason.
Everyone buys her green because it's the family color.
Yeah, and it made me think of her making purple goop. She just loves purple things. But anyway, so she finds them, and this is another favorite scene where her and they have this whole exchange where like she's like, "Why don't you show me your face to Gugu?" And he's like, "I don't have my mask." Or he's like, she's like, "Why don't you come back? We want you to come back, like because of the whole cooking thing. Like we need you." And he's feeling very insecure and is literally asking her for validation of like, do they miss me? Do they actually want me back? Do they care at all? And she's like, yeah, Boozman said he's sorry and like he'll take it out and
for free.
Yeah, for free. And he's like, yeah, for free. What the heck? And then it leads to like, well, he's like, I can't go back. I don't have my mask anymore. And she's like, well, I thought you wore that to attract customers. And he's like, no, it's my face. It's hideous. And so he's hiding his face from her behind. It's all in this tent that they're in, and it's built around, or it's assembled around a tree. And so he's like hiding behind this tree, and she keeps trying to pull on his legs and stuff. And
then Fushi says, "I'll go find it."
And so Fushi takes off, goes like a dog, and just goes looking.
And then Reen is like, "Oh well, I guess she's thinking, oh maybe I'll show him my hideous injury, and he'll feel better about his." So then she's like, "Yeah," she says, "Would you like to see it?" She like shows him the scratch on her arm.
And he's completely offended.
He's like, oh my God, you suck so bad. You had the best life and you're throwing it away for stupid reasons because anyway.
Yeah. And that's what I like is it kind of, it's an extended scene of them having a conversation, a back and forth about so many things. Like,
yeah, I mean, that's most of the episode, really.
Yeah, it's the bulk of it. It's really cool. We learn a lot about like her, her, what's going on with her. Like everything she does is micromanaged, and she's always under constant surveillance. And any issues she's having are immediately remedied, and anything she wants to do is hampered by having a chaperone or being being controlled in some way. And so it's like the complete opposite of Gugu, who has like no safety net and no emotional I don't know, no one to turn to and confide in. And so like her problems, and I love that too, as I was talking about like the human condition, like her problems to him are nothing. They're absolutely trivial. And she gets very offended with his response. He calls her an idiot, several times.
Yeah,
Baka. But there's more to that. But essentially, I guess wraps up that conversation. But
yeah, well, it goes on for quite a while. But then eventually they get to the point where they're like, oh, Fushi's been gone for a while. She has like this bucket thing that she brought with her that I think she had fruit in or something, and she says, "Oh, I brought you a mask. I forgot. It's like super cool. Boozman gave it to me." Anyway, it's basically this bucket with holes in it, and so
he wears it.
Yeah, puts it on his head, and then they go off to try and find Fushi, and they go into town, and Reen gets nabbed by some random guy on the street. And
she needs different clothes, man. Like, what are you doing?
And Gugu's like, what the heck's going on? And she says, oh, this is probably someone that's hired by my father to bring me back home. And so Gugu kicks the guy in the nuts and then grabs Reen and runs away.
And they get away.
And then they run into Fushi, find Fushi somehow. And Fushi gives back Gugu's original mask helmet thing.
Well, before Fushi shows up, Gugu ends up giving the mask that she had given.
Right. Okay.
She had given him. He's like, I think you need this more. Although she does need new clothes because
Yeah, well, that comes up
It's
later.
a dead giveaway.
But,
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot the order that happened in, but you're right. He gives her the mask so that she can hide her face so that people won't try and kidnap her and take her home. And then they find Fushi, and Fushi says, "Hey, I found it," and gives it to Gugu. And then they all decide to go back to Boozman's, and Reen says, "I thought you didn't want to go back to Boozman's." And Gugu says, "Yeah, but I don't care about my own problems anymore," or something, because
he was like,
I now care about yours, basically.
Yeah. Well, he recognized that she would be safer there, that it's a more remote location that people don't, frequent. So yeah, he was essentially like considering her more than him, So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a nice moment.
He says something like that, like, "I don't care about my own problems anymore," or something like that. Like, I don't remember. Even though he thought all of her problems were very, very trivial.
Yeah. He's like,
he still wants to protect her, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And he clearly likes her anyway, but yeah.
Anyway, and so then they all decide to go back to Boozman's, and then
on the way there, they're intercepted by the lady that was often with her, with Rain, when she would go into town and stuff.
Caretaker or personal assistant or whatever.
And she recognizes her clothes and is like, "Young lady, you have to come back with me." And she's like, "I'm not Rain." Right. And she's like, "I didn't say Rain, you idiot." I shouldn't say that, but she's like, she laughs at her. Like she laughs at her like, you sweet child, like, you're foolish. And so Gugu does. Well, he's like he doesn't kick her.
Same thing. He just grabs Reen and runs.
But he's like, "Fushi, you deal with that."
Right.
Like created diversion
into the forest, I believe, right? Because they aren't in the forest yet at that point.
They're trying to lose her and also get to Boozman.
Fushi's also running with them at that point, and then in the forest, he says, "Yeah, Fushi, go deal with her, and I'll get Reen back safely," or whatever. And so then Fushi turns himself into March and sort of hurls himself at the lady.
Headbutts her.
Yeah. And then the lady's like, "What the hell is that?" "Oh, it's a small child with a gaping, bleeding wound. I should probably worry about that instead of getting Reen back."
Yeah, she's distracted by that.
And picks up March, Fushi, and starts walking, and then the tree monster thing comes back and grabs Fushi out of her arms, and I think that's where it ends.
That's the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Which, the tree monster is back from episode 6.
We didn't actually mention this, but while Fushi is searching for Gugu's helmet.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and bring it up.
But yeah, he's looking for the helmet, and it's in this like pond or something,
Rice paddy, I assume.
Yeah.
Looks like.
And so he's like searching around, and he keeps having a vision of his creator talking to him, but Fushi is like rejecting him. He keeps like, I guess we didn't establish this either, but earlier before Reen shows up, Gugu was like really hungry. He was like starving essentially. And so Gugu like realized he could create food.
Fushi
he could materialize food. And so he starts making pears and like I don't know if it's like takoyaki or whatever the thing on the stick is.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. But food we've seen him interact with. Mochi? Oh, mochi. Yeah, probably with like some sort of savory sauce on it.
Dango, something like that. I don't know.
So he dumps all his food on him, but then later when he's looking for the helmet, he keeps seeing his creator talking to him, in very esoteric language.
His creator says, "How are you enjoying pretending to be human?" or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Fushi makes a pear and throws it at him.
Yeah.
But then he's not there anymore.
And then he says something else.
He says something like, "The enemy doesn't rest," or something like that.
Yeah.
And, some ominous sort of language.
Yeah.
And,
like clearly foreshadowing what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And then, and so then the tree monster shows up, and we don't really see much. I think in the preview or something, we see like, it's stealing the March.
Yeah. It's in the preview
form, and you see like a wood version of March. Which is interesting that they're starting with that, because in the last time they faced off with the tree monster, March was the last one that Fushi resorted to, the last form, to try to inevitably defeat him.
Right, but that was the form that he happened to be in at the time.
Yeah.
So
So it's just interesting that happened to play out that way. And
the preview reveals other things that the thing turns into, and I don't know. We don't need to talk about the preview though.
Yeah, we'll get there. Spoilers. I mean, this whole tree monster thing. It's like It's not like I hate it or like I'm upset about it, but it's like I just don't have any investment in it. I don't know what it is.
It's a little bit the same thing again, right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, it's happening again.
Yeah,
but it's not like the stakes are raised.
Super satisfying or anything. It'd be interesting if it was like a different form of that monster in some way.
Yeah,
but it's literally just the same monster.
Or if the monster could communicate, or there was another wrinkle to it where it wasn't just like a repeat performance.
Yeah, which it might be. They could change it up, but
That's true.
Just on the surface, it looks like a repeat of the same thing that happened before, except this time it looks like Gugu's going to help him.
Yeah, I imagine they hear a scream and Gugu tells Reen to just go back and I'll catch up with you. I'm gonna go check this out.
Right.
So yeah, you're probably right. And they've already. I mean, this episode in particular was about them, for their bond becoming firmer as quote unquote monsters, and so they have a connection now. So
it's a lot of bonding. I mean, Gugu bonding with Fushi, Gugu bonding with Reen.
Yep.
I guess that's it.
Yeah, but it's definitely a bonding episode.
It's a lot of Gugu. And based on what this show has done to me thus far, I don't hold out hope for Gugu living.
Yeah,
much longer. Honestly,
it likes to kill off characters.
We know enough about him, and we like him enough. I think he's doomed.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
Yeah, but who knows? Who knows how long that's going to be?
At this point, Fushi's going to be able to turn into a whole fucking kindergarten class, like
just
meeting all these kiddos, which is fine. I mean, I'm into it. But yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how they do it. But if it's just this pattern of like, I meet someone and then they die and then I can become them, hoping a little more than that. I'd like things to expand a little bit. I don't know how, in what way, but I don't know. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of chapters to go. So
yeah, and this, I mean, we got like 20 episodes total coming for this.
Yeah, I think so.
But I'm just probably not gonna.
We're like
get that far.
Almost halfway through, not even quite halfway through this. So
yeah.
So yeah, no, it's not going to get as far as chapter 143, but it'll probably. I mean, it's going to get through the next volume probably. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, it's a good show. I like it.
That's To Your Eternity. Oh, I have my my notes regarding chapters and pages here. This was chapters 18 through 21, which encompasses 54 pages. 3 chapters, 18 pages apiece. Yeah, so nice. That's the pace we're cruising at.
That's good. Yeah, it's
right around 50.
It's paced well.
Yeah, I felt like this one was maybe a little crammed, but the way that everything goes in the manga is, I mean, exactly the same, honestly. So like that little side story about Gugu's backstory was in the same place in the manga. I don't know. I don't know if there was a better place to end this earlier. Probably not, I guess.
And it's a decent cliffhanger as far as action scenes or tension goes. Yeah. But they just haven't built up like this enemy very well. Like it's just kind of mysterious at this point. So it's
well, I mean, so last time Fushi had his creator sort of there advising him, telling him things that he didn't know about, sort of about how to beat it. Not, precisely exactly how to beat it, but like
helping him.
Yeah, which Fushi now knows, I guess, those same things. But if this monster has changed in some way, then his creator is not likely to be there because Fushi was, very rude to his creator last time they encountered each other in the rice paddy. So.
And it seems like he was trying to prepare him for that.
Right.
Meaning that maybe it's like, I'm not going to help you. Like, you're kind of on your own anyway.
Right. So yeah, this could be a harder battle, or I don't know.
And I imagine that his creator doesn't want to intervene, right? There's probably some part of this.
Oh yeah.
That
I mean, the idea is that they're sort of chess pieces, I guess. This monster created by his competitor, and this monster created by him.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's like I helped you the first time, but now you got to figure it out.
I told you the rules of the game. Now you're on your own.
Yeah.
Knight's moving a little L shape. You know. There you go. Now win the game.
If only it was just chess.
Yeah, so that does it for To Your Eternity, episode 9. Still looking forward to watching more of this one for the next 11 episodes that we have.
Me too. I like it.
And that brings us to the special challenge.
Bum, bum, bum.
In which I have told George that he needs to watch Flying Witch because it's one of my favorite shows of all time. But as we discussed, Slice of Life is boring if you talk about it every week. So we're not going to talk about Flying Witch. And George, what show have you picked for me?
We're not.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, we don't have to, I guess. I mean, I honestly don't have very many notes.
All right. Well, just be quick about it then.
Okay.
I was trying to be funny and sarcastic. I wasn't actually telling you to do that.
I was like, all right. This episode, I'll keep it quick. Okay, so in a previous episode, we had met this dog girl.
High school friend of older sister, or?
Yeah. I don't think she's in high school, but yeah, she's like a witch friend of Akane, which is Makoto's older sister.
Right. They were friends in
they were
school.
friends in high school. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
And she was turned into a dog person by Akane, but doesn't know how to turn back fully or something. I forget exactly how that works, but
yeah.
But she shows up in this episode.
Yeah.
And
she's great. I like her.
She's cool. She pays a house visit. And
I like her better in these later episodes than I did at first, I think.
Yeah, because it was like, she's being like overly dramatic. And,
yeah.
But yeah, she's pretty cool. She essentially like is showing up to say hi, but also to apologize. She's a fortune teller, so she's like, I'm gonna read. I brought chocolate. She brought some fancy chocolates, and she's like, I'm gonna read your guys' fortunes to Makoto and Chinatsu and Kei, who's the older dude, high school guy,
older male cousin.
Yes. Yeah. And so the first half is her visiting and reading their fortunes, and it's funny because like she's like, all right, Makoto, I'm gonna read your fortune. Like, what's a problem like in your life right now? Something we can go off of. And she's like, problem? And she's like having a hard time coming up with these slice of life protagonists. Man, they got it made. And she comes up with some just ridiculous things. She's like, can you help me with my my sense of direction? And she's just like, no, that's not how this works. And so she's like, all right, I'll give you tomorrow's fortune. And so I was like, all right, she's gonna give tomorrow's fortune, and the second half of the episode is gonna be tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. And she does this for Makoto and Chinatsu. For Kei, he's like, oh, like, how am I going to do on this test I have coming up? And at first she's like, I can't help you with that either. But then she does give him a fortune about that. She's like, if you study, you'll do well. Or, I don't know. Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But it doesn't entirely play out that way. It's funny, like after she leaves, they show like an outside shot of the house, and then they do the whole like nighttime into day, right? So it's the next day. So it's like, all right, here we go. And so they set out onto their day, going to school and whatnot, and they're thinking about their fortune. But what ends up happening is that day after school, the mutual friend of theirs now comes over with Makoto is talking to her at school, and she's like, you have to come over and see my garden. I have edamame that's blooming, and it's beautiful. And Nao's like, you sound like my grandma or something. And so she brings her there and show her in the garden. My favorite scene is, so they go back and Akane has showed up, the older sister. She wasn't there when the dog girl was there, but she's there now, and I love her because she's just always napping. Like, she's super lazy, and that's nice. I like that in a girl. And then so she's just like passed out, and they like walk past her, and like Makoto's like, "Oh, my sister, don't mind her," and Nao's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a sister, like older sister. That's cool." And so they go out and see the garden and blah blah blah, and then they come back in, and Makoto's like doing something, but then Kei is there, and they're in the same room, like the living room where Akane is sleeping.
Mm.
And so now and Kei are kind of talking. You know, they're friends. They're friends before Makoto moved to the town, and so during that conversation, Akane wakes up and she like kind of assesses the room, and she like it's like you can totally tell what's going on in her mind, even though she doesn't say anything. But like she looks at Kay and she looks at Now and she looks back at Kay and like she like assumes that like, oh, he has a girl over, you know, they're around the same age. And so she proceeds to like walk up to him, making like she doesn't say anything, but she makes these noises of like and she's like rubbing his head and like and just like you know kind of being a dick about it. And then she leaves the room and I forget. I think yeah, she runs into Makoto and like, oh, like Kay has a girl over, and it's like she's like I don't know. She explains or whatever. That's my favorite part of this episode. I laughed out loud during that scene. And that's mostly it. I mean, at the end, they're like Makoto's laying down to go to bed, and she's like, oh, what about my fortune? Like it said I was supposed to like encounter a problem and blah blah blah, and then she ends up. Akane sends these like origami uh, puppet things to like summon them to the living room, and she's been sleeping all day. And so they come in the living room. Chinatsu, Kei's already passed out, but Chinatsu and Makoto come in, and they're like, "What's going on?" Like, "Oh yeah, like I've been sleeping all day, and I can't. I'm just wired. So I figured I'd give you my gifts of my, give you gifts of my travels." And so she just gives these ridiculous gifts. Like she gives Chinatsu this giant mask, like tiki kind of mask, and Chinatsu's just like, "What am I supposed to do with this?" And then Makoto gets like some sort of like cheesy touristy shirt from some country I've never heard of. I meant to write it down because I literally never heard of it, but I didn't. And yeah, so they both like apply their fortunes to that. Like this is the problem that I'd have to face. Like they got this gift that I don't want. Yeah, and that's I know that wasn't quick. But that was the episode, and I love Akane a lot. Akane Chinatsu's still my favorite, but Akane is hilarious. She doesn't show up too often, but whenever she does, it's pretty good. So there you go, as fast as I can go.
All right, good enough. Yeah, I mean you covered enough that I remember portions of that episode as you were talking about it. So yeah. It's a good show. I like it.
It's nice. I do like it too. It is. I usually end because each week, right? We're catching up all these shows, and Tuesday is our recording deadline, and so I always end with Flying Witch, and it's very nice.
Oh, that's the last one you watch. Yeah,
and it's very nice. Palette cleanser from like action drama, whatever I've been watching, and it's very peaceful too. It's serene and funny. I probably in every episode, it's got at least a chuckle out of me, if not a full laugh. So I like that about it, and
it's not like a super comedy. It's not like Azumanga comedy, you know. But it's funny in its cute, quiet way.
Yeah, it's got this situational humor that's like, just there's little pockets of it, but it's very fun and nice, and it's consistent too. Like with the characters, like it's not trying to do too much, and I think it benefits it. Like, in that way. But that brings us to me once again suggesting a show to you that I like, and then you being like, "Oh, I already watched it because I am a genius who sees the future." That's what geniuses do; they see the future. More of a savant, maybe. I don't know. What's the word?
I mean, savant is a word. So is genius. I don't know what word you're looking for.
Someone who's prophetic, I guess. clairvoyant. There we go. That's a
prophet. Would be someone that's prophetic.
You're clairvoyant. You know what show I'm going to tell you to watch.
Prognosticator?
Before I even say it. You have a crystal ball at home or something? You got some burned sage? You got a broom?
I have a broom.
Is it hanging on your wall?
No.
Okay. Well, never mind then.
I have a mop too.
Nah, it doesn't count.
I have a vacuum
That's-
cleaner.
Mop is like a substitute girlfriend.
I have a feather duster.
So you clean a lot, is what you're saying.
Well, I have cleaning supplies. Let's just leave it
You
at
have
that.
no excuse to clean. That's what you're saying. No excuse not to clean. All right. The show I'm going to recommend to you, I'm going to pander to you a little bit.
Mm.
It is another slice of life show that I like quite a bit. But I haven't seen since it came out. So if you've already watched this, you're going to have to refresh my memory with some details. There's a little show called Barakamon. No, it's called Barakamon.
Barakamon. What was it you said I would say? I've already watched that because I'm a genius, and that's what geniuses do, is they
know the future.
Know the future? Is that? Yeah. I don't remember what it was you said that I would say, but I was going to try and say the exact same thing, but then you went on for so long after it, I couldn't remember it.
You're a genius, savant, clairvoyant,
prognosticator.
prognosticator.
Okay. Yes. I'm all of those things and more.
I am impressed.
So, yes, Barakamon. I watched, 12 episodes of this probably? Yeah, 12. That's all there is.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking it was just a one and done.
Yeah, and I'm going to be quick about this. So, I liked it. It's good. All right. And so that does it for this episode. No, just kidding. You said you wanted me to remind you about it. So he's a calligraphy artist, right?
Yes, I remember that.
Okay. And he gets into some trouble in Tokyo because some, I don't know, higher up head honcho-y type of guy is talking crap about his work or his latest work or something like that, saying that he's not doing anything interesting or new, even though he won the competition or show or whatever. I'm not sure how all this works, honestly. Anyway, so he gets mad and punches him in the face, this old man.
Oh, wow, really? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So he gets all riled up and then he has to take a leave of absence.
Yeah. So, he's kind of an uppity dick and he punches an old man. And what does he get for being a dick? He gets a island vacation getaway. Anyway, so he ends up in this small town on this small island, sort of, remote and isolated. Not super remote, actually. I looked it up on a map, so it's not. Anyway, but yeah, so it's a small town, and like the townsfolk are cool, and I thought the main character was kind of a dick at the beginning, but he seems like a nice guy now, now that he's in this town or whatever. So out of the gates, I'm giving it a 7 of 10. And then moving on to like the next episode, he overworks himself, probably due to constant interruptions from the town's children who are just randomly showing up at his house at any time they feel like it. Anyway, and he ends up going to the hospital for a night. And yeah, and I'm so at this point I'm thinking that this show is supposed to be a yashike. Like it seems like it's supposed to be a yashike. I've been told it's a yashike anyway. But it's not really that relaxing. Like there's all these like constant setups for comedic bits, and the main character is constantly being stressed out by like the local kids and everything. And I don't know, just like all of this stress being poured on him doesn't make me relax. Like I don't know.
Yeah, a different show than you would imagine, like in a yashike.
Yeah, it's not at this point. It's not feeling like super yashike, but then it chills out a little bit after that. And then like the next episode, they're catching mochi, being thrown off a ship. Little mochi balls in packets being thrown off a ship. It's this whole competition thing they do for some reason in this small town. And then the next episode, he's asked by one of the local children's parents to paint the name of the ship on the ship. In
on like calligraphy
kanji, that he's having to write, and he gets, really, really freaked out about it for some reason. Anyway, it all ends well. And then the next episode is a beach episode, and then the next episode there's some visitors from Tokyo, his manager or handler or whatever, and this boy who actually beat him in a competition after he moved to the island. So he had sent in some work for this competition, and this young 18-year-old boy got first place, whereas our main character got second place. And then the next episode, the visitors are still there and they go fishing, and then the visitors are returning home. So they go to the airport, and all of the children from the small town are very excited about the airport. It's apparently a big deal because they have things there that you can't buy in the small town. And then the next episode, he gets to hang out at a stranger's grave for a whole day. And then the next episode, his bath heater broke, and some kids from a nearby village are bullying local kids. And he plays Tarzan with the kids later, and then he falls off the path along the mountain on his way home, and then some people find him, and it's all okay. And then the next episode, he's called back to Tokyo, summoned back by, I don't know, his father or something. So before he goes back, he attends a festival with the kids, and then he leaves without telling them that he's leaving, and they're all upset. And then the next episode, he's back in Tokyo, and he sort of freaks out and ruins his entry that he had submitted for this contest because he's freaking nuts or something. I don't know. He like throws coffee on it, and he's a weird dude. I don't really get this dude, to be honest with you. And then he's sort of in a slump, and he can't think of any other things to create. And then a call from the kids gets him all fired up, and he comes up with something, and I don't know, presumably does okay in the competition. I don't remember. And then in episode 12, the final episode, his mom doesn't want him to go back to the island. She wants him to stay because she misses him or something like that, I guess. And then a bunch of arguing and her punching everyone. She relents, and he goes back at the end.
Nice.
That is my summation of it. But the short version is, I liked it. It's really good. I mean, it started with like a 7 out of 10 out of the gates, even though I didn't really like the main character very much. All the kids in the town sort of warm up to you, or you warm up to them, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and I mean, it's not like super relaxing. It's much more of a comedy than an Inuyashike, I think. But it's definitely like a slice of life because, you know, nothing of import really happens.
Slice of life comedy more than,
Yeah, more than Inuyashike, which you had sent me something that was like the top 20 Inuyashike as voted by...
Was it Otaku USA is a American anime magazine.
Yeah, and this was like number 7 or 8 on the list or something like that.
Yeah,
and
Flying Witch was...
I'm just going to say not Inuyashike, I don't think. So whoever voted that as an Inuyashike on that list, you're dumb.
Yeah,
get at me in the comments.
Get in the comments. Yeah, I guess I could see that. I mean, it's been so long since I've seen it. I think it came out 2014 or something like that.
Yeah, and maybe Inuyashike has just evolved or something. I don't
maybe.
know. I'm trying to think of other Inuyashike from like back then. What year's Flying Witch? It's like 16 or something,
I think
probably.
So, yeah. 16,
okay, so newer.
And that's definitely more healing, like than Barakamon, from what I remember. But I remember Barakamon like having, I guess, like when he gets to the island and stuff, like he kind of brings a lot of drama with him, I think. You know, or he invites a lot of drama, but like the setting that he's is very peaceful. Right?
Yeah. The setting is peaceful. He's sort of stressed because he's still trying to work his way back into this art world or whatever of like the calligraphy creations that he does. And he's focusing on that a lot, and so these children interrupting him constantly stresses him out, as I said. But
like he's trying to be chill, but then he just keeps like getting frustrated.
But they're just kids, so I guess it's cute and fun and everything. But like, it's like constant, and like it is kind of annoying. Like I would be annoyed if they were just coming into my house all the time, through an unknown portal. Because he like locks all the doors and windows and everything like that. And they somehow are still inside his house, right?
No respect.
They eventually reveal where the portal is towards the end, but there's a loose floorboard. They climb under the house and climb up through a loose floorboard.
Nice.
Yeah.
But I definitely get what you're saying. Yeah, it's not.
I liked it. If you haven't seen it, I would say watch it if it sounds like something you would like. It's slice of life. If you like slice of life, you will like this. Pretty confident in saying that. If you're looking for a Yashike, it might not be that. I don't think it is. Apparently, at least 12 people that voted in Otaku USA's poll. I don't remember what the actual number was, but
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that poll, I don't know. We're already long enough in this episode. I don't really need to talk about it. I forget what the first two were, but then after that was Azumanga Daioh, which is comedy slice of life, and I think it is more Iyashikei than this, anyway. To me, like, I don't know.
I imagine it's one of those things where just a lot of bleed, where it's like you have slice of life as an umbrella term, and Iyashikei is part of that, but, you know, it's an online poll, and you really like Barakamon and it's in there, so you're probably gonna, or whatever, you know, you're gonna vote for that.
All right, so I'm not holding it against the people that voted for that in the poll. I'm holding it against whoever put that in the poll.
Yes, yeah,
that is the person who made the mistake.
Which is fair. I mean, yeah, I guess it doesn't really even matter.
I mean, the weirdest thing is that My Hero Academia won #1.
You silly man.
I'm just kidding. I don't remember what the first two were. I don't even remember if I'd seen either of them, but yeah, Azumanga Daioh.
I had heard of at
and
least
then
one of them.
The whatever got 4th place, I know I had seen, and then I think you said like 6th place for Flying Witch. Like it was up there quite a bit.
Yeah, it was pretty close.
I remember like after you sent me that, I had seen 11 of those, and then,
nice.
After watching
Barakamon,
I've now seen 12.
Is a show
Aria.
That was one or second.
It was one
first
or two.
Second.
Yeah, you're right. And that's one that I haven't seen, but maybe is deserving of that. But I would put Azumanga Daioh at the top personally. But you know,
I thought Flying Witch would be at the top for you, but
I mean, Azumanga Daioh was earlier. It sort of defined that whole genre, even though it's not like completely Iyashikei like Flying Witch, but it created the space that Flying Witch could exist in. True. So I have to give it credit, and it's freaking great.
Oh, it is, yeah, no denying that.
Yeah, love that show. Love all the characters. You know, same with Flying Witch, I guess. But yeah. I don't think I could put I don't think I put Flying Witch above Azumanga Daioh, and I forget what the number 4 was, because that would have been 2nd place for me above Flying Witch as well, and Flying Witch would have been 3rd for me, but it was a little lower.
Dang.
Anyway, doesn't matter. Talked about this long enough.
Yeah.
I said I was going to be short, and I was, and then you made me talk longer. How long is this episode?
3 hours. All right. Well, anyway, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah. The usual stuff, social media, blah, blah, blah. I'm like anime, UMLIKE, I didn't even say that right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
Know what I'm saying?
Know what I mean? Do you know what I am saying?
Yes.
You can find us on all the social medias, and you can leave comments, and we like it when you leave comments, because without your feedback, we don't know if what we're doing is good or bad. We generally assume it's bad because we think that we're bad people and that we're bad at things that we try to do. So
it's nice to have some encouragement. I'll say that.
Leave us positive comments. We would
or
like
whatever.
that. And if you have negative comments that you want to leave, go ahead and leave those too. Just don't at George, because he's sensitive. Anyway, at UmLikeAnime, that's UMLIKEANIME on all the social medias. We have a Patreon. If you want to give us money, we would appreciate it. We don't have a lot of patrons right now, but we very much love the ones that we do have. And we would love to have more. Yeah. I don't know why that sounded like a question. We would love to have more.
Nah, I'm good. We got one. That's enough. I just need one rich one.
$4.35 a month. I tell you, man. Cranking out how many hours every week of this?
You're just making it that much longer.
I know, right? Every minute I talk about it, it's longer. That's your money. That's your money at work, friends. Every dollar you donate makes me talk for an extra minute.
If you give us more money, maybe we'll talk less. It's like a
I don't know,
hostage situation.
I can't promise that. Anyway, that does it for us. I'm Tony. He's George. We're done. Goodbye.
See ya.